What's up, everybody? We are back at Around the Mat Pod. It's been a 2-week hiatus. Scheduling, technical issues have hurt, but we are back. They can't count us out. They tried to count us at 3, but at 2.9, we kicked out, and we are back, and it is a big week of wrestling. Last week, we had Full Gear. This week, we got Survivor Series. A lot of things are happening in the news. A lot of things have been happening. We got the Continental Classic coming up. Everything is blowing up in the world of wrestling, and we're going to talk all about it. And so before we get into it, if you're watching live on Twitch, thank you. Shout out, man. Let us know that you're watching on Twitch. I got the chat window up. I'd love to see what you're thinking, what your thoughts are. If you're watching live on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. That helps me out. I really appreciate it. We'd love to see your subscribers. Comment. Tell us that you're watching, what your theories are, what your thoughts are on our comments. If you're listening on Spotify or on iTunes, don't forget to leave us a 1-star or a 5-star. We appreciate the reviews. Tell your friends about us, share. And don't forget to follow us on all social medias at AroundTheMatPod. We're there with all of our hot takes. So follow me and follow all of those pages. And without further ado, man, let's talk a little wrestling with the boy, Tyler Miller. TY is back in the building. And how you doing, T?
Doing good, man. Glad to be back. It's a pretty exciting week for a number of different reasons.
Yeah, a lot of things going on.
Yeah, everything in wrestling is as crazy as it usually is. So,
and before we get into the wrestling, obviously we are not Jeff Jarrett and Conrad. Which funny story before I get it. Actually, I was at a hibachi restaurant a few weeks ago and walk in the door, and Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett are standing right there, and I am shell-shocked. I am like, man, I'm a huge fan. And that's all I could say. I shook both their hands, and I was like, and so we go to sit down at the table. We're sitting at the table. It's me and a buddy and his wife and my girlfriend, Casey, and we're out to eat. And he's like, man, who was that? And I was like, oh, dude, that's Jeff Jarrett. He has the biggest wrestling podcast in the world. He's a megastar. He owns TNA. He's the guy. He's also incredibly nice, and his podcast is incredible. I listen to it every week. And my buddy's like, why didn't you get a picture? And I was like, I didn't want to be rude. Meanwhile, they're sitting the table right next to us, right in hibachi. There's the two things. So they're at the grill right next to us. And pretty wild, man. They were having their daughter, I think his daughter's birthday or something. And pretty wild to see Jeff Jarrett in the wild. Obviously, he lives the city over from me, from where I live. So we are not far apart. So maybe I'll run into him again. I don't know. Maybe I'll hit up Gold's Gym, ask him some questions. My buddy's like, why didn't you get him on the podcast? I'm like, I doubt he wants to go to my podcast to talk about that. He has his own, But yeah, random Jeff Jarrett story. And so since we are not Jeff Jarrett and Conrad Thompson, we are, however, PJ North and Tyler Miller, and it is hate week. It is hate week. We're going to just talk about college football briefly. There are two things. I've loved a lot of things since I was a kid, but the two things that are consistent in my life is pro wrestling and my love for the Michigan Wolverines. And this week it is Michigan versus Ohio State. Tyler is an Ohio State fan, which is literally his only knock. His only flaw as a human being is his love of Ohio State. And Tyler, predictions for the game this weekend?
Man, I after the past 3 years, you guys have got the best of us. So I mean, I'm hoping for a blowout. I mean, we got a talented team. I mean, it's a rivalry game. You guys,
right, a rivalry game's always close, right?
Yeah, you guys, have ran into a few roadblocks throughout the season.
We had a tough go of it. We have zero. Look, and I'm not a coach. I'm not the guy. Everybody's always like, we got to get this. I'm like, bro, we had 3 years of the best players who stayed. We didn't lose a lot of guys, right? So we had guys that stayed for 3 years. It's hard to reload after 3 years because the guys weren't getting experience. You know what I mean? We lost like 25 guys to the draft. It just is what it is. But last week showed me that Donovan, the Don, and Khalil Mullings are, if I want to run the ball for 400 yards every game, I'm a big running back. I love the run game. So I want us to just run it down Ohio State's throat. I also hate Tui Moalau, so I hope we just destroy him and we pick on Empinosa because that guy's like the most penalized defensive back in college football. Do you know that?
Dude, he's terrible. I was watching the game against Indiana, and it was, I mean, I'm screaming at the
Pretty
TV.
crazy. Yeah.
Like, get this dude out of here. And they kept targeting him, in which it's a smart move.
Yeah.
But
pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. So hopefully this weekend, man, 2 days away from the game, or I guess it's more than 2 days. It's only Tuesday tonight. I keep thinking it's Thursday, but Tuesday. So Saturday at noon, big noon kickoff, Michigan versus Ohio State, and I hope to hang another. I know we won't score 50, right? Obviously, we're not as good a team as we have been. However, we are still the Michigan Wolverines, and we've got Bryce Underwood next year to look forward to and a lot of other things. So I'm excited, man. I've been a Michigan fan since I was a little kid, so it's funny to be able to combine that. I got my Steiner Brothers T-shirt on. You know, I'm in it, baby. We are here for it.
We got the SummerSlam Ohio State.
See, he's got the Ohio
shirt.
State. This is incredible. So we have combined our love of wrestling and college football today, and we're going to talk all things wrestling. So with that being said, man, let's get into the to the headlines here. Maybe if I've my chat window's throwing me off. Nobody on Twitch is saying what's up yet. So the headlines, man. Let's start with first Jade being injured. Obviously, last week there's a lot of things that happened in the last couple weeks. Obviously, with SmackDown and all of those things, but we're gonna just kick it off there. Jade being injured, and where does that land us? From my perspective, let me give us a little timer here. From my perspective, Jade Cargill is supposedly legitimately injured, right? So good for them to write her off TV. I like the way they did it. Thankfully, because I think the Bianca Belair thing has run its course. I've been over it for some time now. So for me, I'm like, thank God, let's get this over with. So this couldn't have come at a better time. Supposedly it's 3 months. You never know, right? Because I don't believe in dirt sheets. But whatever's being said, if she does come back, it's a perfect time for Royal Rumble. That's in February. That's 3 months from now. We'll see what happens. But I think it's a good chance for her to restart and come back and just be a killer, because I think she's a better heel than she is a babyface. But I mean, obviously I'm a huge Jade fan, so let's see what happens. Where do you think it's going to go, and what are your thoughts on the Jade situation?
It's obviously never good that someone gets injured, but I think in Jade's case, I think it might be beneficial for her.
Sure.
Her to, like you said, come back, repackage, and hopefully they'll make her that, powerhouse that she was in AEW and that I feel like she's meant to be.
Yeah, I think she should just be bench pressing girls like every week, just like tossing them big Bam Bam Bigelow style, just tossing them into the audience.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Nia Jax did for a little while.
Right.
The only thing about it is they're still the tag champs, right?
Yeah, I mean, they got to drop those. We've talked about this. I feel a little bit bad about the tag team titles because they do a good job of getting people involved. And it's cool to see other girls get involved, but the tag team titles mean nothing. They've done nothing with them. They don't do a good job with storytelling with them. So it's like, I don't really understand the point of them. And now they've added a second female title, so we've got 5 female titles, which is great. I'm not knocking that part of it, and a 6th with the speed belt. They have stuff for everything, and I just don't really understand the tag. So hopefully they'll drop them, and then we'll get, I don't know, new tag champs in some form or capacity.
Yeah, and I was thinking, of course you still have that factor of them being the champs, but I think it would be cool for Jade to come back, potentially attack Bianca, and maybe start that feud up.
I mean, they have to. That is the money feud to me. Or Bianca Rhea last night. We saw that on Raw. Pretty wild how that went down. I felt like. So
they ever fought each other?
They haven't. No. Nope. Bianca and Rhea have not either. Yeah, that's a big money main event.
Yeah, I was thinking about that last night during their little segment. I was like, man, I really don't remember seeing those two ever get in the ring together.
Yeah, I think it would be really, really good. I'm excited about that too. Who do you think the 5th woman is for War Games?
So I kind of spoiled it for myself.
Oh, you already know?
Yeah.
Oh, well then don't tell me. I don't know.
Absolutely not.
Actually, you can tell me. I don't really know. Is it going to be Charlotte?
No, it was brought up last night, so it's not like a huge secret. It's Bailey.
Oh, okay. So that whole Lind, you felt like that was lent to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just some of the bullshit that I scrolled past on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I knew she was involved in the main event, obviously, but which was also super strange about Raw last night. How like it was just like that ended the show, and I was like, when I was like, obviously I wait until about 8:30 or 9 to start because I just can't handle the commercials. So I'm like fast forwarding through, and next thing I know, I'm like fast forwarding past the Bailey thing. As that ended, I just was getting ready to fast forward, and I'm like, oh, the show's over. Shit, that was the main event. I was not even mentally prepared for that. So I guess Bailey, that makes sense. Are you excited? Well, we'll get into the Survivor Series War Games pick 'em, but are you excited for the 5-on-5 women's match, or do you feel like it's a little weird?
I do. I do feel like it's a little weird. I feel like it was kind of forced, like last minute, like,
Yeah,
oh, gotta make a War Games match for the women's as well.
right.
I feel like that there's something cool that they could do elimination style wise. We've seen it over the years, with elimination matches without doing the same War Games, same
Yeah, man,
exact
I
match.
wish that it wasn't. I don't know. I wish they would add a little different stipulation for that style of War Games with the female to break it up, to make it a little different. Because really,
Yeah.
the only storylines, the two major storylines that matter there are Rhea and Liv, obviously. But then the other one is Naya and Tiffany. So they're on the same team, though. So I'm like, what
Yeah.
are we doing here? But I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens. Obviously, I like War Games, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, kind of crazy. Jade getting injured. Up next headline is Cody versus Kevin Owens. And the promo on Friday at SmackDown. Have you seen the promo? What are your thoughts on Cody? Obviously, I wasn't a huge fan of spinning it back up unless they did something really crazy, and they've done a great job with that. Obviously, they did the after show attack on Cody outside. They did it on socials. Brilliant way to do that. Kevin Owens is a much better heel than he is a babyface. I think it's a really great idea. I also love that they're doing it at Saturday night's main event. So I think that's going to be excellent because I love Saturday night's main events. One of my favorite things to rewatch is all the Saturday night's main events. I'm a bit, obviously, nostalgia is a sickness, and I am nostalgic for Saturday night's main event. So I'm excited. What are your thoughts on Cody and KO?
I'm excited for it too. I didn't know that it was going to be at Saturday night's main event. I did see that there was a flyer with both them on it, but didn't really put
Yeah,
together.
WWE announced it yesterday.
And it's a title match.
Title match, yep.
Okay, yeah, and the promo on Friday. I mean, I'm not a big Cody guy, but it was fiery and it was really good. So I appreciated that.
Yeah,
one.
man, and I think this is I think Cody is, again, I think he has probably the best. He's the best. Well, he's the most well spoken, I guess is the right word for it. His vernacular and the things are written to, if they are written directly, I don't know if that's how it is or if he does it as himself, but they are written very well to his thing, which I think is great and excellent. And a lot of nuanced stuff too. I think the internet is obviously are big into conspiracies, so you see people making more out of molehills, which I think sometimes adds to the story a little bit, right? It almost makes us believe some of the things. I'm like, oh man, I didn't know, that's crazy. Stuff like that, which is always cool. So I don't know, man. I thought, like I said, obviously I'm a huge Cody fan, so I'm excited about it. And I'm excited to see what they do with KO again. I don't think KO wins, but I do think there's some smudge finish. And they got to get to maybe another match, a third match in a cage or in something, or I don't know. Maybe that's what they do, or maybe they just make this kind of a fun Peacock special with Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I would like to see it be a stipulation match.
Sure.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Not quite yet.
Yeah, I hate when they do it like first off. I'm like, let's build a little bit and then get to it. Get to the stip.
Yeah.
Sure.
And like you said, also, Kevin Owens much better as a heel.
Significantly better.
I feel like he's one of the people that have really flopped back and forth.
Yeah, he is the big show of this generation.
Yeah.
Nobody's been babyface or heel more than him.
And it's like, it doesn't really make sense because I feel like it's his heel work outweighs the babyface work so much more.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. But I think in the end, I think he stays babyface longer sometimes. But obviously, all his big wins have been as a heel, so we'll see what happens. I'm excited about it as well. Like I said, Saturday night's main event coming up in December. So, all right, this last one, this is a fun one, man. I don't know if you saw this, but ESPN does a 30 under 30 for professional wrestlers. A really great. I enjoy it. I like reading it. There's some wrestlers on there I've never heard of, which I really enjoy too. And I feel like I'm pretty in the know a lot of wrestlers, and I really enjoy reading about that. I used to love the PWI 500 just because I like to see wrestlers that I'd never heard of, stuff like that. And I really enjoy that. I don't put too much stock in it, obviously, but it's a cool way to look at wrestlers, especially the next generation of under 30 guys. Dominic Mysterio was named number 1, 30 under 30. Um, before I give my take on it, did you get to see the 30? Have you seen the list at all?
I think it was like the top 10.
Okay.
When you sent me the notes earlier, I briefly glanced over it, and I don't know, man. I just would really like to know what it's scored off of and
Well, I
what it's
think it's
based
just a
on.
guy's based opinion, right? When you look
Yeah.
at it, it's I forget the guy's name who writes it. Uh, Andreas Hale. I know that he's one of them. And it says here Mike Coppinger, David Dennis, Arda Ocal, and Brandon Caldway and Eddie Masonet. Masonet are the analysts, and so they kind of just go through it and give their feedback based on different information, I guess. I don't know.
That's interesting, man, because
Yeah.
I guess you put that name ESPN to it, and I guess it's supposed to have credibility.
Look, man, I've realized when you're ranking look, I could talk all day about college football rankings and how I think preseason ranking is the absolute worst thing to ever happen to college football. It confuses people down the road, and it gives people benefit of the doubt, even though they've lost game, all that stuff. And this goes into the funny thing about ranking wrestlers is it's fake. It is a fake in the sense of predetermined. I don't mean fake, but it's not there is no two things that come together and it's a chance. We know what's going to happen. Someone does, right? For the most part. And so that's what's kind of fun about it, is it's really a reason to banter back and forth and argue about it. So with that being said, who is out of the top 10, I'm sure you saw the top 10, but who would you rank as the number one 30 under 30 based on your feedback?
I don't remember a whole lot of them off the top of my head.
I'll give you the top 10 list.
Okay.
Dom, MJF, Tony Storm, Rhea Ripley, Mariah May, Konosuke Takeshita, Jack Perry, Kyle Fletcher, Daniel Garcia, Shota Umino. Those are the top 10. Braun Breaker's number 11, by the way. I'll give you that one too because he's a WWE guy.
Man, like I said, I just would really like to know what it's based off of. But
okay,
in my
based
opinion,
on your opinion, how about that?
My opinion, I feel like out of those 10 names, I would have to put MJF at the top.
Okay.
He's all around out of those 10 names, my opinion, he's got everything. Ring work, promo skills, I feel like you could put a company on his back. Maybe not now, but I feel like he could lead a company into the future,
sure.
Which is, I think, what AEW's plan is for him. So I'm not really buying Dominic over top of it.
So I actually, I actually thought Dom being number one was pretty good. He's been involved he's never missed time all year. He's been in every major storyline this year, the whole time. He's been in every major storyline. Rhea's, Damien's. He was involved in all. He had a match. He's done everything. So I was like, okay, this I could see that. However, we talked about in our group chat. It was mentioned. Well, who would you build a company around if you could do that? And you could start with someone under there. And I was like, yeah, MJF's great. And the question was Logan Paul. Miguel mentioned that Logan Paul was number one. And I felt like Logan Paul can't be number one because he's a part-timer. And he's a celebrity, which is fine. But wrestling's not his... he's not going to... You know what I mean? He's not going to be the guy for wrestling 12 months out of the year. He's just not going to do it. Yeah. He's not doing your thing. He's just not... He's been a great proponent and he's been a great celebrity, but I don't picture him being that guy. I just don't ever see that happening. So when it came to the list, I was like, honestly, Rhea Ripley. I think that she is the most marketable. She looks the part. She's a champ. She has been injury prone lately, but I think she's the number 130 under 30. And so for me, that was my list. Now, so again, the list is long and there's a bunch of guys on there, but I really thought Rhea was number one.
That's not a bad choice.
And like I said, I just think that she has done such an exceptional job in ring. She's the one thing about female wrestling that in women's wrestling, I should say, for a long time was that they weren't been able to do the same things. However, if you watch an All Japan women's match back in the day, they were doing it's the highlights that you see on the internet are the wildest shit I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, oh, I can't believe they just did that. So American women's wrestling has never been that. Fast forward to now, and it had tried, but it wasn't ever consistent. Rhea is consistently, basically, there is no longer a difference between men's wrestling and women's wrestling any longer. Before, there are still some women where it is, but when it comes to a Rhea Ripley match, there is no difference between men's and women's. So I'm like, I think she's the top because I think she's a megastar over and over. And I think Dom's a close too. I will tell you, hot take. I'm not an MJF guy. I've tried. I think his promos are a little... Sorry, I got to turn this down a little. I think his promos are a little cornball for... I don't know, man. He does the voice thing.
I feel like they're getting there. I really do feel like... It
feels like they're a little prepackaged almost every time.
Yeah.
And maybe maybe I'm just kind of like over because everybody likes him, and maybe that's my thing too, where I'm like, all right, maybe I got to be different, whatever. But there's so many things to talk about with this 30 under 30 because there was so much to come out of it. There's guys on there like Konosuke Takeshita. I'm a huge Konosuke fan. I think if Don Callis just had him and Kyle Fletcher, he would have the best stable. He could talk for Konosuke. Fletcher can talk for himself. Konosuke is a mega star in ring. He doesn't have to promo. I don't need him to talk. Or he could go the Shinsuke way. I prefer him to talk in Japanese. I don't need him to talk in English. Everyone's like, well, you did this. I don't need him to talk in English. They have subtitles. AI will auto-generate that shit for him. So for me, there was like a lot of guys on this list. Well, then I read Kyle Fletcher says, I'm eighth. There's not 7 guys on this planet better than me, let alone 7 under 30. And I was like, damn, I love that. Kyle Fletcher, another. He's
been
a star.
killing it.
He's a star. And we're getting ready to talk about Full Gear a little bit, so we'll go into that. But just some other people on the list. Toni Storm. I didn't even know she was under 30 still. Incredible talent. She's the things she did this year with her storyline, unbelievable. I thought she was going to come back at Full Gear.
Are you buying the retirement thing?
No, of course not. That's a work for sure. The only one on the list, and I didn't agree with in the top 10, was Jack Perry. I do think Jack Perry did a lot with a little. I mean, he was forced into a corner. He 1,000% was forced into a corner. He is a child, and I'm sure what happened backstage, he caused that, and he doesn't want to take responsibility for that. That's whatever. But he has made chicken salad out of chicken shit for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But in ring, I'm not buying it. He's not. I just don't like it. I just don't think it's very good. But I enjoyed the other stuff, man. I think for him to be taken seriously, I think he does have to cut the hair, and I think he just has to change his look a little bit more. But otherwise, that one I didn't agree with. But some other names on here that people might not know. Shota Umino. Shota has unfortunately got a little bit of a bad rap right now because New Japan's down business-wise. But he is incredible. Great. He's incredible. Braun Breaker not being in top 10, everyone in my group chat was having a meltdown. I get it. He's getting there. But y'all are talking like he's main evented wrestling. He hasn't main evented shit. He's main evented what? 1 Raw? Like I understand, but we're talking by the bare minimum. People are mad because they put Shota Umino in there. They had to put one New Japan guy. There are wrestlers under 30 there. But I do think Braun Breaker's a star as well. One of the other ones that's pretty crazy is Austin Theory is halfway down. He's 15th. I think Austin Theory could be really good. He's got to drop Grayson Waller. I can't stand Grayson Waller. I don't like the tag team anymore. I don't know that Grayson, probably great heel, whatever, shit heel. But I think they got to break up. But Austin Theory surprised me because I'm like, damn, he is like super, super young. What is he, 20? I think he's 24. 23 or 20.
Man,
no.
I didn't know he was that young.
Oh, no, he's 27, actually. He's 27. I thought he was younger than that. 27.
Is Ricky Starks under 30?
No, Ricky Starks is 34.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's like one of those things. Like, the age thing really doesn't matter, but it's an interesting take on it. But Austin Theory, I really think if he had better entrance, the A-Town Down thing is fine, but it's like it's a little played out now. I do think if he had better gear, a little bit better entrance music, and a better shtick, that he would really be a star because he's a great wrestler. So I'm interested to see some of that. And then number 30, let me see who's number 30 here. This is the one I didn't know. So it's Yuma Anzai, and she's obviously 20, it guarantees Anzai. No, it's he. Okay, I don't know who Anzai is. He wrestles in All Japan, and so I don't catch much of All Japan at all. So I don't even really see much of it on the internet. It's mostly focused on Noah in New Japan because All Japan kind of went down. So I didn't know who that was. That was one on the list, which I was like, I have no idea who that was. And also Sean Skywalker. Don't know who that was either. So I have to check that out. So there was some, it's pretty crazy though when you think about it. Like 30 under 30. We grew up. I used to think like Arn Anderson was like 50, right? And he was like 38 when he retired. So it's crazy to see the young guys now and the young girls, young women wrestling. It's an interesting thing. And I like the 30 under 30. I thought that was really cool. I think it's a cool thing to do. And I think it's, like I said, it's good water cooler talk for this. So is there anybody who you think should be on that or should be under, or anybody that you would pick under 30 in their prime? Like, do you know of any other wrestlers that you think you're like, man, I would put them up top other than MJF?
Damn. Up top, I can't think of any.
It's crazy because you don't really know how old these guys are either, right? I didn't even.
Yeah,
I obviously knew Logan Paul was 29, but I knew he was under 30. But like, I don't know if I'd put him at the top. Like I said, I think it's kind of a crazy scenario with him because he's obviously just a celebrity, and so it's not really the same. So we'll see what happens. But 30 under 30, man, check that article out if you haven't seen it. It's pretty interesting.
Something I think of though, to go back on what you said, man, I think it's predetermined. I think SportsCenter or ESPN, I'm sorry, support the big moments, but keep the stats and keep all that stuff off ESPN.
Sure. See, I like that ESPN takes it, because in Japan it's taken very seriously. It's a sport there for the most part. So I like that ESPN does it, but I do agree that like they almost try to make it a little too sporty with certain things, and I don't need that shit. Yeah, I get that. That's fair. I mean, as you know, this at least my thing with ESPN, and I'll say this, is they're not out there presenting information as though it is true. That's my thing. They're not a dirt sheet. They are truly interviews, journalists, and op-eds. This is obviously opinion piece right here, right? Like this is their opinion of who they think the 30 under 30 is. So that I'm cool with. Thankfully, they're not out there trying to press us on like, oh, Jade Cargill's injured. And I'm like, don't give me what your sources say, you dickheads. Crazy. All right. Well, with that being said, man, we're going to get into it. Full Gear was Saturday. Amazing pay-per-view. Did you watch live?
I did.
Okay. First off, what do you give it overall grade before we get too far into it? What's your overall grade for it?
Overall, I would probably say a B+.
Okay. B+. What was your negative for them? What was the big negative you felt like?
Besides a few of the matches, I really feel like I'm a big storyline kind of guy, and I mean, there's a lot of good wrestling on there, but I wanted a little bit more storytelling with some of the matches.
Sure.
Fletcher and Ospreay, that was probably the highlight for me. And then that one had a good story.
See, I think they could have drugged that story out as long as they wanted because those guys were friends. I think they are so focused on getting stuff over from a story perspective because they are so lack of storytelling. Not necessarily, I shouldn't say lack. Their stories just happen quicker.
Very quickly.
And so I think they could have strung that out until like double or nothing almost. They could have like almost gotten into each other, almost fought. Like the Callis family has like 12 people in it. So like they could have done a bunch of shit there, I felt like.
Yeah.
With it. Okay, so fair enough. So the matches and then felt like a little storyline. What was your biggest plus from it?
I liked kind of what they did at the end with
I thought it was great.
Yeah, with everybody coming out there, and it was kind of chaos.
I thought it was interesting. It was a pretty crazy way to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't see it coming. When Christian showed up, I was like, wait, I forgot he could even cash in. Holy shit.
Yeah, they've been dragging that out for a while, and I'm kind of glad because Christian does really well with a piece like that, supporting him.
Yeah.
But the way that they did everything just kind of made me, left you on a cliffhanger. Like
I thought so too.
I want to watch Dynamite this week.
Someone said, they were like, why did Pac kick that guy like that? The guy who's holding the keys to the car. It's like, why'd they kick that guy like that? I was like, I don't know, but it made sense. It felt like, why'd they throw Rey Mysterio into the side of the production truck? The same reason they kicked that guy. No reason at all. Just because. Okay. So I'll give my feedback on those things and we'll go into a little detail. I felt like show wise, it was a B+ as well. I think my big thing is they have too many matches still. I think if they can just shrink it down, they don't need to go 4 hours. They just really don't. I don't think they get extra value out of that. However, it doesn't cost them extra either. So maybe that's what they're doing. But I did feel like it's just there's some matches that's too long. I'm like, God. And I thought the other big negative was the 4-way tag match to start. I obviously love tag team wrestling. What they're doing with Acclaimed, I get that they're forcing that story a little bit, but it was an awkward finish, like super awkward, didn't look clean, hated that. And I felt like that match really was really bad because I really like, I almost called them the Street Profits. That's so terrible. Private Party. I really like those guys, man. I think that they're I really liked them at the beginning too. And, Mark Quinn, I really like. I think he's like the more exciting one for me in ring, and I think that Zay's the better talker. So, either way, I just thought that match sucked, man. I was like, and that sucks because I love tag team wrestling, like I said. So that was a big negative for me. I really was like, what are we doing here with that? I thought the Roddy MJF match could have been on Dynamite. I didn't need that. I also didn't understand what they're doing with Kyle O'Reilly coming out. I did the whole thing with the Kingdom and all that stuff sucks. So I don't really love that either, but they're getting there. And like I said, I just think those matches. The biggest thing, obviously, and I'll tell you this, for me, I obviously as a musician when I was doing that and all the artist thing, I was involved on TikTok pretty actively, but I did not watch TikTok. I'm not a TikTok guy. I don't sit there and stroll and watch. I don't do it. So these Costco guys, right? So I'm like, I am out. Every time my friends are all in, and I'm like, this is the dumbest shit of all time. I hate it. I don't like influencers. I think their whole career is a joke. I don't like it. I hate it. Then I see the promo last week on Dynamite where AJ does, and he does a great job. He puts everybody over, does a great, and I was like, oh shit, I get it now. These guys are like, he gets it. He's not like, and I understand he loved wrestling. He wrestled back in the day and all that. He was an indie worker and all that stuff. But I was like, holy shit, man, that 0 hour match I liked it. I thought that what they did was cool. I thought he played up to the crowd, the Rizzler, the whole thing. I got it. I was like, this makes sense. I get it, man. I get it. It got so many views. It was on SportsCenter. It was everywhere. It was a huge deal. And I was like, okay, I get it. And I don't normally like the celebrity spot thing, but I thought that was really cool. And so I thought that wasn't my highlight, but I thought that was a really cool moment, and what they did was really, really good. And then the guy turns out that he broke his foot in the middle of the match, and he still wrestled.
I heard that he actually broke his foot prior to the match.
See, I saw that on some dirt sheet SRS bullshit, but he said in the video, he's like, yeah, I broke it in the match somewhere. I don't really know, but the adrenaline was going, so I didn't think about it.
Yeah, I know the last time we talked about it, I was kind of downplaying it, but I'm like you, man. I really enjoyed it. It hyped me up. And for a 0 hour, it was pretty exciting. The crowd was into it.
That was my number one thing. Have you ever in your entire life tuned into a pre-show because of a match? Ever?
I have not.
Never. I could ask a million wrestling fans, and they couldn't tell me that. I've never seen it. They're like, I'm tuning in because of the 0 hour match or the pre-show match. No, I've turned into it just because it's the pre-show, but never because a match was happening.
Do you think that they should have maybe had it on the main card to try to get the buy?
I don't think so, because I don't think it translates. I think it helps having them before the show, seeing what the show's about. And I think the thing is, how much of AJ and Big Justice and all those guys, fans, are really going to be wrestling fans? That's the thing. You're trying to get that translation, yes. But how many are you really going to do? And so there's a little bit of that to me where it's like, okay, they did a great job getting people to tune in. Now can we keep it going? Could they get them to buy? The other thing is that it's on Triller. It's not on pay-per-view. It's not an easily accessible thing, in my opinion. I think Triller sucks. The search function's trash. The scheduled thing, I don't love Triller. And so I just don't know. I don't know, man. I don't think it would have made sense for them to be on the main card, but I get why. Like I said, I think from their perspective, they're like, let's get this as a pop. I don't know if they're going to get more of the buys, but maybe so. And I assume that that's kind of what their thought process was behind it.
Yeah, and I think it would also be easier to reach their crowd as well if you're
Yeah.
sharing a link. People are clicking the link, takes you right to it.
Yeah.
No ads, nothing like that. So I agree.
That's the other thing too, is there's no paywall. And that might have been their thing too. Like, hey, we don't want people to have to pay to see. We're happy to do the promotion regardless. Like that type of thing. Maybe that, and you may be right. What was your favorite match on the card?
I'll go back to what I said earlier, the Osprey and Fletcher match. Of course, great story with it.
The
You did
pile
mention
driver on the stairs, though, right? The pile driver on the stairs.
Oh, dude, that was hard to watch, and somebody should definitely be facing repercussions for allowing that move to happen.
I'm surprised, honestly, that they did that spot and it didn't end the match in a count out. I think that would have been the way to extend the story, in my opinion.
That would have actually been a great idea.
Because I think him kicking out of it makes your finisher look better, obviously. But I think that it would have been cooler if they did that and got a count out win. And then Osprey could have been like, hey, man, tombstone me on it. You've never beat me. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like there might have been a little more to the story that you could have done there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that, like you mentioned before, I don't think that they should have done it this soon, because it's like one of those. Where do you go from here?
Yeah, I hope that they're forever feuding. I just hope that they feud for the rest of their lives, like Cena and Orton.
Yeah, and I'm really big on what Fletcher's doing right now. I think it's just amazing how he's kind of turned around from somebody who was just brought in with Osprey to somebody who's competing on like the same level as Osprey.
Yeah, dude, from United Empire tag team to just like looks the part and does I mean, that's a main event turnaround pretty quickly. That shows that he's a star. Overarching, I agree with that.
But yeah, all the I will say an underrated match I think was the Mercedes match. I saw.
So we talked about that. Yeah, I think that was actually my favorite match of the night, and I'll tell you why. Mercedes has been plagued so far by having terrible matches, even worse promos, and like the whole thing of her coming was she's a star, and she hasn't looked like it at all. Her matches have been okay. The Willow Nightingale match was banging because I think Willow's really good, but I think she's just been strapped with bad matches and it just hasn't gone well in my opinion. Like you know what I mean? Like people expect her to be a megastar, like Rhea Ripley big, like number one guy, right? And I don't think that that's been determined that way. But that match was Statlander. Statlander was doing shit, and that's the part right there where I'm telling you there is no difference between a women's match and a male match. That is what I look for in professional wrestling. Like that's what I want out of women's wrestling. I really enjoy that part of women's wrestling, and so it hasn't been an American staple forever, and it's really hard. That was one of those where I'm like, couldn't tell the difference between a male and a female match. That was incredible. Statlander looked like $1 million in that match. Sasha she didn't do her stupid finisher. She did the bank statement thing, and then she wrapped her with the pit. Like that was great. That's the way to do it. So I really enjoyed that part, man. I thought that was match of the night. Honestly, it's hard to top Fletcher in Osprey, obviously, because that was so good. But I do wish that finish was different with Osprey and Fletcher. Have you seen the things where people are calling Fletcher the next Orton?
I've not, but now that you say that, it makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they're called. So his nickname is the Proto Star, which is I think is pretty cool. But they're basically like showing him how Orton went to the shaved head thing, and he went to the shorts, and he did the whole, and he does the Fletcher does a very similar hand gesture thing as he's his signature deal, and people are comparing him to a young Orton. Which is a really cool thing. So I'm excited to see where Fletcher goes from here. As I've mentioned a million times, I said last time with the AEW State of the Union, I believe AEW has probably they have 10 guys and gals at the top that could carry the company. And I think they do way too much because their roster is overblown. Use Ring of Honor to build and do whatever you want to do, and use AEW stuff for the AEW stuff. That's my opinion, and I think that would be better for them. Obviously, I'm not in creative. Maybe I should be. I don't know. Maybe my opinion's really good. I don't know. But I think that's a thing for me right now. Is I obviously Fletcher and Osprey was great. and so was the Moxley thing at the end. I really enjoyed Garcia and Jack Perry was an underrated match. It just didn't need to happen there, but I get why they got Garcia there because that promo video they did, hammer for him, and then he wins the title, star. Like that is it right there. That's the star treatment. So hopefully that goes somewhere too. But I thought the pay-per-view was good. Like I said, B+. I do think, like I said, it's like an hour too long. It's just right past too long. But we'll see what happens with the Continental Classics getting started soon. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot of WWE here coming up, but the Continental Classic is starting soon. Super weird that they left off Roddy. They left off Fletcher. I don't understand what they're doing. Obviously, they're building Okada up. Someone was like, how's Okada how's he even the man if he wasn't even on the pay-per-view? I'm like, they talked about him more on the pay-per-view than other people. What are you talking about? He didn't even have to wrestle and they got him over because he's the greatest tournament wrestler of all time. He's the Rainmaker for a reason. So I'm excited to see what they do with the thing that's hard with Americans is if you lose, this is American wrestling. If you lose, you've lost. Whereas in Japanese wrestling, if you lose, you just don't get points. So I think that maybe the second time around with the Continental Classic should be really fun. Now that people have seen it once. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, you're going to tune into Dynamite tomorrow?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm really interested, not on the same topic as the Continental Classic, but with Mina and Mariah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be really interesting.
That was a great. I don't know why they had that segment on TV, but I liked it. I was like, all right, cool, dude. I think Mina Shirakawa is a fucking great wrestler too.
Same.
So I think that should be fun. Her and I think maybe Tony comes back and costs Mariah the title. That might be kind of fun.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I'm glad that they did it the way that they did, where Mariah was going to turn on Mina, and Mina, it didn't happen that way. So I think they did it really well.
Yeah, I'm excited. That was a weird segment to be in the middle of a pay-per-view, but hey, here we are. So yeah. Also, I'm sorry, I got to say this too because I mentioned this in the chat. Bobby Lashley and Swerve Strickland put on an incredible match too, and we didn't even talk about it. Like, that's how many good things happened at Full Gear. And it was like, I think it was a little too early to put Lashley out there, but I like that the Hurt Syndicate is dominant. And I said in the chat, I was like, damn, this may be the first time I've ever witnessed a Bobby Lashley 5-star match. And I meant it a little bit like tongue in cheek, but at the same time, like, that's not a Bobby Lashley thing. He's not out there doing, that's not his wrestling like that in an elongated match where people are doing a bunch of high spots and stuff. That's not his match. He's a Brock Lesnar type guy where he's like, it's brutal and it's big fists and it's a lot. And that was incredible. I was like, holy shit. When he took the swerve stomp on the table, I was like, I can't believe Bobby Lashley just did that. It was incredible. I was absolutely blown away for Bobby Lashley having a 5-star match on an AEW pay-per-view. Let's talk just briefly. What are your thoughts on? Did you like that match?
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, there's so many matches so many great matches. It's like none of them were really bad.
Right, and, it's crazy. Like the only bad match was the opener.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of like that one too.
Really? See, I just didn't enjoy. Yeah, either way. I mean, that's the thing. That's the cool thing is like there's
something for everybody.
Yes. Exactly, man. Something for everybody.
And I think it wouldn't be as bad for AEW to have the long pay-per-views like that if they trimmed it back down to their original schedule where they were doing.
That's the thing. Now there's a pay-per-view every month almost. It's like they have 8. So it's like, fuck, man. Now you're talking about that's a lot of sitting. We bought the package deal, us and a few other buddies. So we'll watch World's End obviously at the end of the year. Nowhere to go but up, man. Kind of crazy. We'll see what happens this week on Dynamite. All right, man. Let me see. This is the wrong one here. Shoot. Nope, there it is. Got it. All right. Survivor Series pick'em. We got the pool this week. It's always a good time. I'm 2-time back-to-back pool winner. Yeah, you boy, you love to see
you won 3 out of 4, haven't you?
I've won 3 out of 4. Nobody wants to see. Hey, man, nobody wants to see me in the pool right now, especially with Cody as champ because Cody's won me like the last 3. This has been incredible.
I've just been donating to the charity, man.
That's really what it is. So Survivor Series, pick'em Survivor Series this Saturday, live on Peacock, man. 5 matches so far have been announced. Obviously, I thought last night that they were going to do a original Survivor Series match with the Testament and the Wyatt Sucks. I thought they were going to do an original. Yeah, they do suck. I don't care what anybody says. That's the worst thing in professional wrestling right now. AEW's got a lot of shit wrong with it. Wyatt Sucks still the worst. But I thought they were going to do a traditional Survivor Series match with that. That would have been awesome. And then you could have had Cross and Bo as the last two people. So many things, and you're not going to do that? Like, of all the things, you've been building this stupid story. These guys haven't wrestled, and you don't do that? I was so disappointed in that. I thought that segment last night was the god-awfulest. That's another thing. I didn't enjoy Raw last night. I thought it was pretty terrible, honestly. It didn't really do anything for me. Which is okay. I still watched it, obviously. I'm going to watch it. I didn't hate it. I just was like, nothing really exciting happened. And that made me even more mad. They didn't announce that match, and that segment with Scarlett sucked. So, all in all, pretty terrible.
I feel like the Wyatt Six for me, and I know you're a music guy, might relate to this. I feel like it is like the interlude on an album that means absolutely nothing.
You're not wrong, man.
That's what I feel like the Wyatt Six is on Monday Night Raw.
It's almost like they really wanted it to be cool. It was like the intro. This is a perfect way to put it. The music thing is a perfect thing. The intro was really cool. You had high hopes for this group. They came in and they shot Chad Gable in the head. They did a bunch of wild shit in the back. They tore it up. That was a great, exceptional way to debut the Wyatt Six. And then what happened? What are they even doing right now? Realistically, I wish someone could explain to me why they think it's good. I've asked Miguel, I've asked Fred and all those guys, and I get that they like it, and that's fine. That you can like it. But you can't tell me why it's good, because it's not good. It's just not. That's, again, and I understand it's subjective to a certain extent, but there is some objectivity to it. Bastion Booger was a bad wrestler. He was not good. He sucked. Okay, that is objectively speaking. Everyone shares that sentiment. He didn't get over. He was disgusting. He was not good. Okay, the Wyatt Sucks thing right now. What are we doing? So it doesn't matter. I could grandstand on that all day long. I don't have anything against him. I just don't enjoy the creative. So back to Survivor Series. LA Knight versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the U.S. title. Shinsuke back. I wish Tank were here because he loves to call Shinsuke one of the pillars of catering. I love Dark Shinsuke. I love the Japanese promos that he does, all that stuff. I really enjoy it. I don't see LA Knight losing here. I do, however, see him losing at Saturday night's main event. So I'm going LA Knight.
I'm going to go LA Knight too. I really don't like what LA Knight's been doing really since he's won the title.
I agree. It's kind of weird.
And it's goes back to classic wrestling. The babyface chasing the title is always better. And then he's got it now, and he really has been kind of stagnant.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I want him to lose, but I don't think this is the one.
I agree. I would love for Shinsuke to go over, but I just don't think it happens here. All right, this also the worst random three-way of all time. Braun Breaker, Sheamus, and Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig, his mannerisms. I watched Raw last night and I was just like, damn, I can't. I have heard the wildest rumor. Do you know why they broke up Imperium? I don't know if this is a true thing, but I will give into the rumor because it's funny.
Do not. Mm-mm.
Supposedly Giovanni Vinci was hitting on Tiffany Stratton, and that's Ludwig's girlfriend, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So Ludwig was like, and Gunther was like, get him the fuck out. So now every time I see Ludwig come out, that's all I keep thinking about is, damn, I wonder if Giovanni's just backstage hitting on Tiffany right now. Oh man, this three-way, I think Braun Breaker's gonna win. Because where else is he going to go from here? They can't. I don't think they take the title off him because there's nowhere for him to go right now. So I think Braun retains. What about you?
I agree with Braun winning. The past few weeks, especially I guess it would have been 2 weeks ago, where Ludwig came out and attacked Sheamus. I'm like, what the
Yeah, and
hell
then
is this?
last night Sheamus came and attacked Ludwig.
Yeah, and then I guess it was making sense a little bit, but like you said, it's completely random.
Yeah, what a way to get to a 3-way for no reason.
And I feel like the mid card titles just are not what they were at the start of the year.
That's a good way to put it.
Of course, you had
We had
you
Logan
had
Paul,
Gunther.
right, and all that stuff first.
Yeah, I mean,
And
but
Gunther. That's a great way to put it. They had Gunther at the beginning of the year and Logan Paul.
yeah, so and everything that they were in, because Gunther's reign and Logan Paul being such a big star,
Mm-hmm.
every match that they were in seemed high profile, whereas these guys are just, it's back to the mid card champion.
Which sucks, man, because the mid card, I love the Intercontinental title. I think it's
Same,
one of the best
same.
titles. The U.S. title, I think, looks like dog shit on TV. I love the old WCW one. The new one is I'd prefer Cena's spinner one over this shit.
Oh God.
And that's the worst title maybe of all time next to the tag team titles. Yeah, terrible. Okay. So you got Braun winning that one?
Yeah, definitely Braun, because he does. You took it off of him one time, gave it back to him,
Right.
and he doesn't go anywhere from
Sure.
there to lose.
Sure. Okay. Women's War Games. Rhea, Bianca, Naomi, Io Sky, and Bailey versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, and Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae.
It's just a jumbled up mess.
They've been trying to get Candice LeRae over for a long, long time, though.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know if they're succeeding right now, but they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying. They're trying real hard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Team Rhea.
Okay.
I guess really no. I don't really have a reason why, but I think Team Rhea and them will win.
Sure.
So random. I can't really.
That's a hard one to
pick.
pick. Yeah, it's a hard one to pick. All right, Gunther versus Damian Priest, and I've got to tell you this. Last night, my girlfriend, we're sitting on. We had just turned on Raw or whatever, and we're at the beginning, and Damian's talking. She's like, "God, he's terrible on the mic," and I just laughed hysterically because I'm
Does
like,
she watch wrestling like that?
Yeah, she watches it.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's pretty into. She's not like detailed like I am, but obviously her favorite is Seth and Cody. She hates Roman. I think that's a little bit because I hate Roman. But she also doesn't. She just doesn't really care for him. But yeah, she enjoys it. She doesn't love all. She like AEW's a lot for her. She's like, I can't watch all these matches. It's too much. But she enjoys watching it pretty. And she had Damian's talking. She's like, God, he is terrible on the microphone. And I just laugh like, hell yeah, she gets it.
For a casual fan to pick that up,
and he is super awkward in non pre-taped. It's not good, and I don't know. It's just like it's not believable, or it's like he's a little robotic, like he's not talking, like he's like, I don't know, man. I just don't get it. And I thought that segment and that whole thing, I just didn't really enjoy that at all. I do think Gunther has to win. I think the loss to Cody actually hurt him more because he hasn't really been very strong since Crown Jewel. And I understand it's been only a few weeks, but I don't know, man. I just didn't feel like. So I got Gunther. What about you?
Yeah, I think Gunther definitely wins. They've been pumping Damian Priest up pretty heavy the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
He's been getting the best of Gunther.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely taking Gunther on this one.
Okay. Lastly, War Games, man. OG Bloodline with CM Punk. What a absolute turn of events happened on SmackDown. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Obviously, we'll get into that with the next segment where that was going. But yeah, with CM Punk versus the new Bloodline and Bronson Reed, who fits right in. I mean, he looks the part. I'm not trying to stereotype him or anything, but he looks like he fits in with those guys. I thought it was a great ad. At first, I was like, what? And then I was like, oh, he kind of looks the part. He's doing the whole thing. He's throwing up the ones for Solo. So I enjoyed that part of it. But who you got here? I think this is the hardest one to pick. I'm going to be honest with you because I think no one needs a win more than Solo right now. I mean, no one in the history of wrestling needs a win more than Solo right now.
I'm calling the OG Bloodline. I think because they took the L last time. I really don't see them take him back to back.
Sure.
And on the other side of things, I don't mind that Bronson Reed's in it, but why CM Punk? It makes no sense to me. I really wish they would have strung it out until this week and maybe tried to get Seth in there, because I feel like it would have just made more sense.
Sure.
Bloodline, and then you got Bronson versus Seth in there.
Yeah.
It all goes together.
Yeah.
And then you stick CM Punk in there. Of course, I get
Heyman guy.
months.
He's a Heyman guy.
Ago, yeah, you had the Punk and Heyman thing going on. But it's. Or honestly, I think they just could have just left it the 4-on-4. Just do bloodline
without
and
Bronson.
Just
that. I honestly thought that's what they were gonna do. I think that would have made way more sense. But they're looking for a way to get Punk involved, I guess. Maybe, I don't know what their plan was there. What would be super wild is if they do somehow CM Punk gets attacked backstage by Seth and Seth replaces him. And he's like, I want Bronson and F you Roman type of thing. I don't know what's going to happen. I do think they're going to do something creative because I think that they've continued to keep us guessing each time, which is good. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. Picking here, I don't have a pick right now because I don't know. I got to really, really think about this one. I want to say, obviously, I think the OG bloodline wins. But I mean, dude, if they don't, Solo, there is nothing else for Solo to do right now. Because without his tie to the bloodline, there is nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa are just another tag team at that point now, and you've wasted Tama. And then Fatu, Jacob becomes that guy. He is obviously the next guy. He's incredible, right? He is that guy. But there's just like, I don't know where they go from here. The other piece is, does The Rock come back and get involved somehow?
I think he will. Somehow, some way, shape, or form.
That's why I think a little bit of the turn is going to be is The Rock maybe comes back and does something.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Solo can't afford another loss.
He really can't, dude. I
know they don't.
He's incredible too. Have you seen any of his house show stuff?
Solo?
Yeah, like the stuff they post on the internet, people's posts, and he's like doing. He's pretty good. He does a good job.
I think that kind of a hot take. I think he did really well when Roman left.
I thought so too. A lot of people gave him slack, but I thought he did a good job in coming into his own.
Yeah, I mean, and you're taking over pretty much. They're sticking you in the position of where the face of the company was for many years.
He ate every L they took. They gave him every L. He won a few. He did beat Cody in that 3-way. Or in that tag. He did pin Roman once. So he's gotten a couple, but like he's taken almost every L they've fed him. And he's done a good job with it, I felt like.
Yeah, and I mean they don't want to let Fatu. I don't think they want to keep him far away from a loss as they can. So
that's what I'm saying.
Hard.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see what happens, man. Survivor Series this Saturday going down in Vancouver. Interested to see what transpires. All right. We're not going to go. We'll. I did have a randomizer question, and we'll just talk briefly about the randomizer here. Oh no, what just happened? That's not what I want. Sorry about that. The randomizer, greatest returns. Obviously, this was the week where it's been a year for CM Punk since he returned, and they showed the behind the scenes footage last night. Yesterday they posted that video. It was a really cool video, and you got it from every different angle. You saw him, and there was a lot of speculation about him and Regal not getting along anymore, and why didn't they show Seth when he came backstage, and all these things. Very interesting. I thought they did a really great job with it. And so the random question is who do we think has the greatest return of all time, whether it be injury or returning to a company or just returning to wrestling in general? I don't know why I just gave myself an extra point there. Yeah. What is your favorite, I should say, what is your favorite return, or what do you think is the greatest return, in wrestling?
So I'm going to say I have a tie for that one.
Okay.
I'm going to say Cena coming back at the Rumble.
Yep.
And it was Madison Square Garden.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah. I was a big Cena guy when I was a little kid, like a lot of people.
I get it, man.
And for him to have, at that point,
peak
he was
Cena, man. That was really, really peak Cena, because not everybody hated him yet. That was peak Cena.
Yeah, he was at the top of his game.
Yeah.
He came back from an injury way before he was supposed to.
Yep.
And that was at a time where, the roster was still pretty stacked, but,
Yeah.
Missing a big player like that
Yeah, I mean, he
definitely
was the guy.
impacted.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then the second one, I would say when Triple H came back early 2000s on a Raw,
Yeah. That's
comes out
everybody.
the denim.
He comes out in the denim. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like that. The crowd was so into it.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes out, it's a badass look,
Yep.
doing his whole thing, spit in the water.
Yep.
And then from there, he just goes off on a tear.
Yeah, I mean, then he becomes the game. That's like when they really introduced the game at that point to like from a real perspective. I felt like, yeah, that was a consensus in the chat that those were two of the best, from injury specifically. And I said that the moments that I put in the notes originally, greatest moments, because I think I included Hogan turning heel as like one of the greatest moments of wrestling, and I think
That's
that
what I had.
obviously, but the greatest moment I would say 1A is CM Punk returning to WWE. I thought that from a moment in wrestling history, that was, but from a return perspective, I think Punk is obviously up there because of that, but I do think that Cena's return was maybe the most surprising thing of an injury return of all time. I thought that was just unbelievable. And I wasn't watching WWE actively then, so I wasn't buying the pay-per-views. But to go back and watch it on Peacock now is wild. You're just like, holy shit. I still get goosebumps. I'm like, damn, it's crazy. I was watching so much other stuff at that time. PWG, Ring of Honor. I was like the indie guy at that point, right? But just knowing that Cena came back was crazy that way. And I agree, man. That definitely one of the greatest returns. I do think Punk obviously returning is the greatest, like I said, a top 2 moment of all time between Hogan turning heel and that happening is the fact that it happened was so crazy to me because I never could have I never bought into it, right? I was a complete optimist or pessimist of that because this guy sued the company and the doctor. He went on 2 podcasts to explain how much he hated working there. He disappeared from wrestling for 7 years. In what realm, when he gets fired from AEW, does he think, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go work with the guy I hated the most, Triple H. In my mind, I was like, absolutely no way, no shaper. It's never going to happen. So when and then the way they did it, the credits were rolling and that music hit, I was like, what are we witnessing, right? This is so mind blown, the whole thing. Pretty wild. So yeah, the greatest return. So you had Cena and H, man. That was a consensus. Sorry, I think I just cut the mic out, but I think
now as much as I hate Punk too, man, that moment was it was special.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
That was one of the loudest crowd pops I've ever heard, and I've been watching wrestling all my life.
I know. That's the crazy thing is the pop you can hear from it. You're just like, holy shit.
Yeah, you feel that sitting on the couch, watching on TV.
All right, last question of the day here. We're rounding out, man. We're going over an hour because we've been gone for 2 weeks. Like I said, it's crazy. But this last one, again, Survivor Series, one of the best. It's the Big Four, obviously, one of the Big Fours, but it's one of my favorite pay-per-views as a kid. I used to rent a lot of them. They were available at my store because I felt like all the Survivor Series were available on VHS. So I watched a lot of them as a kid. I love tag team wrestling, but I never loved the Survivor Series matches. I just loved watching them, but I never like, oh, this is a great idea. Let's have this 4-way match, whatever. And I've seen every single Survivor Series for the most part. I'm rewatching a lot of them right now. I'm actually just finished 96 yesterday with Sid and HBK. What a great finish. Obviously Bret Hart and Stone Cold. So I thought would be fun. Favorite Survivor Series ever from whatever generation you wanted to. What is your favorite Survivor Series ever and why?
My favorite Survivor Series, I would say, is probably the 02 Survivor Series.
Elimination Chamber, right?
Yeah, the chamber. It was a twist from the regular. It's an elimination match, but it is a little bit different than your traditional Survivor Series.
Really great way to debut that.
Absolutely, yeah, and with the story, with everybody involved in the match leading up to it was awesome. And Shawn Michaels, getting his last world champion, that was pretty cool to see. All the confetti coming down at the end. I feel like it was a really, really really key moment in wrestling history. I mean, it's Shawn Michaels' last title victory.
That's
world
crazy.
Title victory, I'll say.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think O2 was a really great one. Um, I am gonna go. I would say, man, I think Survivor Series '94 is one I've seen the most. And I should say that. I should say, yeah, no, Survivor Series '93 I've probably seen the most, with Owen and Brett kind of half breaking up there, and then breaking up at Royal Rumble '94. But man, from a Survivor Series perspective, I would say the Sting debut was one of my favorites. I never thought I would see that either. I
forgot about that one.
Completely blown away. I also love the way that they did that with the Authority and Dolph Ziggler and all that stuff. I really enjoyed that. So I would say that that's a top one, but obviously I think O2 is probably my favorite. I shouldn't say that. I should say all of them. I really enjoy all of it, but I would say there are matches. I don't have a number one Survivor Series. I have a lot of great moments from Survivor Series. The gobbledygook obviously was a great moment when I was a kid. I thought that was dumb as shit, and I was like, why is this happening? But okay. Hogan and his team, right? Survivor Series 90. 91 where 90 where Undertaker debuts, 91 where Undertaker wins the title before this Tuesday in Texas. There's so many cool things that happened, and you're just like, what? 96.
I don't think the 98 one gets talked about enough. The Deadly Games, where it was the tournament for the title.
Yes, that's a great one too, man. Another, like, that's the type of there's so many great moments at Survivor Series, but I never think that they've had like a top to finish where I'm like, oh man, I remember every single moment from that, right? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, O2 obviously. I remember watching that with my next door neighbor. He was a young kid. He was a huge wrestling fan. His mom bought him all the wrestling stuff. We got to watch all the pay-per-views. It was incredible. But at that point, right? So I'm in high school and we're watching. I was like, damn, this is oh my God, this is incredible. I really thought O2 was a great year too, man. HBK coming back. That SummerSlam was awesome. So yeah, I guess I would go O2 if I had to pick one, or that one where Sting debuts, which is what, 14 or 16? I can't remember. It's one of those two. I didn't live here yet, so it had to have been maybe 15.
Yeah, somewhere around that time.
So crazy, man. Survivor Series this weekend. I cannot wait. It's gonna be a banger. It's a big weekend. It's Hate Week. It's Survivor Series week. It's Continental Classic week coming up. And so many great things are happening all around the wrestling world. Wrestle Dream. In Wrestle Dynasty, some matches have been noted. I don't know if you heard, Kenny Omega will be back.
Yeah,
he's fighting Gabe Kidd. Gabe Kidd is an exceptional heel. You got to check him out if you haven't seen it.
What does that mean for him? Do you think he'll be heading back to AEW soon?
Yeah, he said he's debuting there because he feels like he owes so much to New Japan, and it's also an AEW branded pay-per-view, so it'll be fine. It's not like he's not wrestling in AEW. So he'll be back. Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff happened. I'm excited to see where they continue to go with Jon Moxley on Dynamite. It's crazy. It's a time right now. Everything's happening in pro wrestling. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan, and it's always a great day to be a Michigan Wolverine. So let's go Blue. All right, quick. What is your score? What's your thought on score? What's the score going to be this weekend? You think you put up 40?
Yeah, I'm going to say 42-14. Sorry, bro.
Okay, fair enough. I was I went in 09. When was Rich Rod the coach? 08, 07?
Oh, you've been to the game?
Oh, I've been, a bunch of times. Yeah, it's terrible. I've actually never seen Michigan beat Ohio State live in person.
Oh, man. That would absolutely crush me, dude.
The first one I went to, I was 16. That was 04. We lost. 06 was 06 was the game, right, where we were 1-2, where y'all beat us on Ted Ginn was just absolutely murking us. So I went to 04. I didn't go to 06 because I was a freshman in college. I went to 04, I want to say 08 or 09 when we had Rich Rod. Whatever year it was, it had to have been 08 because in 10, so 08. And we got absolutely throttled. I was like, we scored the first I'll never forget this. We scored the first touchdown. I'm like, we're 3-9. We're terrible, right? I'm like, we're fixing to upset y'all. Your season's over. Let's go. And then y'all hung 42 on us. And I was like, oh, yikes. tough to have to sit through that. I also saw him play I saw Chad Henne and I saw Ryan Mallett, and Ryan Mallett was a freshman when we played y'all at Michigan, so I got to go to that one at Michigan. My buddy got a Coca-Cola dumped on his head. I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, now you know what it's like being a Michigan fan in Ohio State, you dick. Yeah, man, the game this weekend. So a lot of things going on. I'm excited, man. I do think maybe Michigan's defense steps up, and I think we upset y'all 31-28. So we got the best kicker in the nation nobody knows about. So we'll see what happens, but. Man, a lot of things. Like I said, all things wrestling. Thank you guys for joining us. If you've been watching live on Twitch, we appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes or Spotify, thank you guys. We really appreciate it. Kind of keeps me going. I'm excited. I love talking about wrestling. Tyler, thanks for joining us as always. Until next time, boys and girls, when we go around the mat.